Jim, another topic that various people sent in a clip about, and I saw this and retweeted on Twitter because I got a big kick out of it. Did you see MJF was recently talked about on the Wendy Williams show hosted by Sherri Shepherd?
This is another thing I saw on Twitter. I did not watch the clip because I was rushing and didn't have time. And I thought maybe it was clickbait or whatever. And I heard Wendy Williams isn't hosting anymore. That's a shame. But who is Sherri Shepherd and what did she have to say about MJF?
She used to be on The View and then she left The View. I'll play you.
I forgot to watch The View for the remainder of my life, ever.
Well, she got away from Barbara Walters and now she's the guest host of the Wendy Williams show, but Wendy Williams herself was nice enough to tweet this out. I have some audio we'll play. We'll break it up a few times to get your thoughts. But here's the introduction. A very interesting thing that they say about MJF at the start. Let's play this.
I'm so excited to be here. I got to tell you, there is a story that I forgot to tell you all the other day. When I was flying from Los Angeles to New York, I had an encounter with a former child star who appeared on the Rosie O'Donnell show back in 2001. Okay, so at the time, he was 5 years old, and some of you may remember him because his name is Maxwell Jacob Friedman. And Rosie had him on as a guest. He came on at 5 and he came to sing. This little cutie patootie. He was so adorable. And Rosie wanted to hug. You could tell he didn't even want to give Rosie a hug. He just was like... Now, young Max did not grow up to become a professional singer. He's wonderful. He is now 26 years old, and he goes by the initials MJF. And he's a professional wrestler, okay? Yes. He is.
All right, let me stop it there for a second. Former child star.
I love former child star. MJF, the Rosie O'Donnell show, I'm not trying to belittle MJF's past careers, but the Rosie O'Donnell show would have probably been the pinnacle of that child stardom, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, unless he somehow got on a background scene on Sesame Street, I think Rosie O'Donnell is probably as good as it would have gotten.
Yeah, he's been doing more community theater since he joined AEW than he has the rest of his life.
That's true. Interesting reactions, though, from the audience there. Again, a mostly female audience, if not... No, there's a man there. Mostly female audience. A mostly female audience reacting with oohs and ahs to MJF and his name. What do you think of that?
Well, they oohed, I'm sure, the video at first when he was a cute little peckerhead on Rosie, but then they oohed, and it was like there was some recognition of who he was when she revealed he's a pro wrestler named MJF, and everybody, kind of like, some of them knew. So maybe they're closet wrestling fans watching over their spouse's shoulder.
You know, maybe a growing conversation, whatever he ends up doing, the idea that he is one of the more recognizable pro wrestlers in the world. Even people who don't necessarily watch wrestling, if you flip by once and you saw him acting like a dick, you're never going to forget his face.
Yeah, and he gets a lot of outside publicity for the various things he does where he continues to be himself and act like a dick out in public, and more than most people. Because now they're so surprised when they're not disappointed when they meet a wrestler and he turns out to be a big phony.
Well, let's see how he acted here. Let's go back to Sherri Shepherd's story.
He's a professional wrestler. MJF, and I guess the J in MJF stands for jerk, okay? And I'm gonna tell y'all why, because that's what he was acting like when I met him at the airport when we were waiting in the lounge. Not nice at all. And see, my son Jeffrey, he is a big wrestling fan. He knows all of the wrestlers, so he spotted MJF while we were waiting for the plane, Norman. And, you know, Jeffrey was really nervous about going up to him and asking for an autograph, because you don't know. And so I said, I'll do it for my baby, because I'm Mother Bear. So I said I would go up and ask him for an autograph. And I know how to be with celebrities. I know they don't want you to do a lot of talking, Norman. So I was very nice, and I tapped him gently on the leg. And I said, excuse me, are you the famous wrestler MJF? He snapped back. He said, no. And so I I said, okay. I said, but do people tell you that you look like the famous wrestler MJF? Then he snapped back. He went, yes. And he put his headphones on and he turns away from me. Okay? And I wanted to say to him, I don't like your tone. That's what I wanted to tell him. And I was just like, he got one more time to snap at me before I laid the smack down on him. I was not playing. You don't really?
Let me stop it there for a second. Any thoughts on all this?
Well, obviously, I guess MJF didn't know that the fan bugging him at the airport had a national network television program where he was going to be hearing about it afterward. Would you know Sherri Shepherd if she walked up to you?
I know the name. I may recognize her, but she looks kind of different than I remembered her looking, so I probably would.
Probably here's MJF doing what he always does. He's staying in gimmick, and he's probably pissed off because is anybody ever happy to be in an airport? And here comes somebody, are you the famous wrestler? No, leave me alone. And he hears the story on fucking network television. That's great. But it adds to the gimmick.
And again, it exposes him to an audience that isn't watching AEW Dynamite.
Yeah, and everybody knows there's a bunch of them.
Let's go back to this audio.
Jeffrey was standing right there and he was smiling and everything. And then Jeffrey tells me, he goes, no, Mom, MJF is a bad guy and he's supposed to be a jerk. And I'm like, no. But here's the thing, y'all. I told my son, I said, but no, see, he don't know what a real bad guy is unless he pisses off a black mama trying to get a photo for her son. I'm trying to get a photo for my baby. Like, I wasn't bothering him, Norman. I just wanted a little picture. I was so mad at him. And Marco, this is when I remembered, because I thought that you said you had thought about becoming a pro wrestler at one time. So I want to know, would you have drop kicked him, MJF, if you was there with me?
Yeah, I would have DDT'd him for sure. For sure. Bring him.
Okay, I don't know who this guy is. He's either the security guard or he works on the show or he warms up the crowd. I don't know who this is, just some guy standing at the side of the stage.
Well, now, was this the end of the interaction? Did she go all black mama wanting to get a picture with her son on him, or did he get the picture, or what was the resolution of this thing?
We'll go to the resolution. I hate to say that, it made me think of it. One of the greatest awful lines in wrestling history. Remember when Brandy Rhodes confronted Dan Lambert and she said, "You may have a black belt, but I'm a black bitch."
Yeah. Well, it got a problem. But now here's the thing. You know the questions that the boys get asked and have for years and years. I've been at everybody, because they'll see you and people might be pointing at you and they're not sure, or they think you're somebody else or whatever. But I've been asked at wrestling shows when I was standing back behind the fence in the arena or out on the high school football field or whatever, watching the matches, standing there with the wrestlers, somebody would come up and, "Are you anybody?" Or, "This is a better, did you used to be somebody?" Or, "Didn't you used to be Jim Cornette?" "Yeah, but I quit that a long time ago." That type of, just the questions, sometimes you want to have a little fun.
Well, once again, MJF's in the airport in Los Angeles when this is happening. Let's go back to this audio.
Here. Right there with a DDT MJF. So I literally, Norman, I said, well, maybe I am wrong. I wanted to make sure that the man that was being a jerk to me was really MJF. So I was acting like TMZ, y'all, and I snuck a picture of him when we were on the plane because he was right in front of us. And I texted my producing partner, John Murray, and I said, because he's into wrestling too. And I said, is this the wrestler MJF? Because Jeffrey said it was. And he replied, he said, yes, it was him. So you know what? I was like, I know somebody big and bad to deal with MJF. I hit up my friend, he's Hall of Famer and former World's Strongest Man, Mark Henry. So Mark Henry. What? Wow. Because it turns out Mark Henry works with MJF now at All Elite Wrestling. And so Mark Henry does not look like anybody MJF would say no to.
Exactly.
Like it did me. So Mark, when I told Mark, because I had to play it up, I was like, Mark, and then he said no to me. And then and Jeffrey was on the floor crying. So Mark told me that he was going to handle it. So Mark, I thank you for talking to MJF. You know.
How about that? How about that for free publicity?
And can you imagine when Mark went up to MJF and said, hey, were you rude to somebody's kid at the airport? Well, how'd you know?
No, it's even better than that. Can you imagine Mark, 2 days after everyone's talking about MJF no-showing a meet and greet, and then he's not at the show except for his match, and then he vanishes, and then he comes and he does that promo on Dynamite and walks out through the crowd? The next day, you're minding your own business, and Sherri Shepherd calls you up. This MJF just yelled at me and my son in the airport.
He's everywhere. He's the modern day El Kabong. MJF.
They gave this 5 minutes. They gave this 5 minutes on TV.
Hey, and at least
that's national TV.
They mentioned the right promotion, because usually whatever wrestling is, he's a big WWE guy. But at least they got the company right. See, Tony ought to make Sherri Shepherd his chief brandy officer.
Well, now let's really think about this.
I'm surprised that woman, I'm surprised with her son being treated like that she didn't seek any kind of legal recourse.
Well, I was going to actually say, I would think if I was Tony Khan and MJF is just on this campaign of hate and just attacking innocent people and children at airports, I think I may talk to another attorney other than Mega and say, what can I do to really punish this little bastard?
That's right, and we all know that if you want somebody punished, if you want somebody miserable, if you want somebody at their wits' end, just introduce them to this man.
Call Stephen P. News. If you need to sue. An outlaw mud show or two. Still to the rest.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, just a few minutes of conversation with Stephen P. New can make somebody miserable. That's right, positively miserable. He will roast them and walk them across Texas and make them sell like they're going to the electric chair. Because Stephen P. New at newlawoffice.com, 888-692-8084, not only takes up cases of children that have been slandered and told off at airports and mothers that are wringing their hands over what to do about it. But if you've been wrongfully terminated from your job or harassed in any way, you know what? Stephen may ought to move to Stamford. I hear they got a lot of these harassment and wrongful termination cases going on up in Connecticut. But also, if you've been poisoned by a big company, if your rights or your health has been infringed on, anybody in your family or social circle that you know with any of these issues, newlawoffice.com, 888-692-8084. The man, the consigliere of the cult of Cornette, can help as well. He is as we've mentioned many times, a philandering philanthropist over there in West Virginia, raising money for children's athletic uniforms, feeding the homeless, righting wrongs, carrying the banner for justice everywhere, in the legal courtroom and outside. That's right, Stephen P. New at newlawoffice.com, 888-692-8084. Sherri Shepherd, write that number down. I believe you've got a case.
Tony Khan, write that number down. You may have a case.
That's right. He's slandering everybody. Old MJF. Well, I'm surprised he hasn't even said unkind things about you and me, Brian. He's just lost his mind. He's so full of anger. But you'll be full of money when Stephen P. New gets you paid, and the other guy will be full of anger.
All right.
Everybody wants to be full of it.
Sometimes I think the spot's done, and then it just happens again. It's like, oh, we were back in it. I didn't even realize.
Yeah, we're back there again.